Nigeria cannot continue in the path of rising debt. Experts counter Tinubu. Welcome to the news, and please subscribe to our channel. To get notified when we post such juicy news updates, please click on the notification bell. Economic experts have said Nigeria cannot continue on the path of indebtedness and amid incompetence and efficiency. The economic analysts were reacting to the All Progressives Congress Party presidential candidate Bola Ahmed Tinubu's recent comment on Nigeria's 2023 appropriation bill. Recall that Tinubu remarked in his interaction with business stakeholders in Lagos that budget deficits are not necessarily bad. However, Nigeria's rising debt profile has been a source of apprehension for money economics and ordinary Nigerians. Certainly, for a country struggling on all fronts, a 77 trillion debt if the National Assembly approves President Muhammad Buhari's 23.7 trillion ways and means advance, according to the Debt Management Office. DMO recent statement should raise dust. With the country's dwindling revenue portfolio and overbearing debt repayment burden, the fear continues to escalate. In perspective, a breakdown of this year's appropriation bill with 21.51 trillion expenditures and expected revenue of 9.7 trillion naira shows that a whopping 6.31 trillion naira, representing over 70% of its aggregated revenue, will be got by debt services and shooting up to the country's budget deficit to 10.78 trillion naira. In plain economics, Nigeria's debt situation does not look good. Reacting to the development in a chart with Daily Post, a financial inclusion and wealth management expert, Mr. Idakolo Bolade has said budget deficit financing cannot translate to economic growth in Nigeria. He stated that the budget deficit is costing Nigeria double-digit inflation and depreciation of naira. He added that historically, the budget deficit has not been productive because some of the projects financed by it are not economically viable. He cited Nigeria's railway currently crippled by insecurity as an example. Budget deficit financing cannot translate to economic growth in Nigeria because deficit financing has led to double-digit inflation and the country also battling with chronic food inflation. The deficit financing has consistently weakened the naira and has led rating agencies to downgrade Nigeria's credit rating, thereby affecting flow of investment opportunities and ability of the private sector to source funding from foreign institutions. The deficit spending by Nigeria cannot be said to be totally productive because some of the infrastructural projects financed by the government are not commercially viable projects that can repay the loans to fund them. A major example is the railways, which have been rendered unproductive by insecurity that has affected their operations. Continuous deficit spending by the government will leave the government unable to undertake the key social and infrastructural projects in the long run. Also, an accounting and financial development done at Leeds City University, Ibadan, Prof. Godwin Oyedokun said Nigeria is having budget deficit owing to inefficiency and incompetence. He said, and I quote, "It was not good for a country to use a larger part of her income revenue on debt serving, and it is the case of Nigeria." Also, he disclosed that the country's budget deficit on recurrent expenditure would only plunge our unborn generation into debt trap. He said the budget deficit becomes laudable if it means to capitalize capital expenditures. Yes, the budget deficit is not bad at all. My stand has always remained that a country shouldn't use a larger part of our income to pay debt. That is where the problem comes from. Another problem is how sincere are the government officials in terms of budget. We are having a deficit where recurrent expenditure is not lower than the capital expenditure. It means we are going into debt to make a certain class of Nigerians to be wealthy. It will not be an issue if most people in the economy are productive. You pay a salary for a job of 20 people instead of 2 people. We are deficiting on inefficiency and incompetence. Such will not develop the economy. If the budget deficit is on capital expenditures, this will bring about This will bring about future cash flow into the country. If the Central Bank of Nigeria's 23 trillion ways and means is added, Nigeria's debt profile would hit 77 trillion naira. That means that generation pay the debt of their fathers who decided not to take the governance seriously, he lamented. Wow. Problem. So imagine, let me tell us, we are making money, but the money we are making, we are using it to pay basic. And it's not enough. And it's not enough. Problem due. For this country, problem due. Only the Labour Party presidential candidates have the capacity of controlling Nigerian economic because the knowledge and experience is there. Mr. Expert, don't just mislead people here. Asiwaju only said debt in itself is not totally bad if it's applied judiciously for the good of the people. He went on to give example. Of Japan with high debt, good standard of living but still confronted with manageable inflation or pressure. Even the civilized countries of the world that we all run to have high debt stock. For example, Canada today has 70% debt to GDP. US has a high debt stock as well, but they are used productively. That is what Asiwaju Tinubu said. It is not true. You are a liar. This was the argument of Buhari APC that they want to fund critical infrastructure. How far? Today. Second Niger Bridge was taken over at 10% and now it's completed and a part of this. Okay, it's part of the critical infrastructure this government has given to Nigeria, and the people of the South, it should be grateful for that. You should be ashamed of yourself who brought person into Nigeria into debt. That is why the issue of beyond partisan is sick nation over some do not need or healthy represent anymore. Okay? Alright. Such is life. Me, Bola Tinubu, trust me, you cannot give what you don't have. I don't know, some of you are gullible, educated illiterates that supporters will come and say gibberish of why the rising debt profile is good. I'm telling you, I cannot forget last year or even 2 years ago, we were talking about the protests and they were all coming. They were all saying, the protests, what's it called? The processing. Alright, on this note, we have come to the end of the news. We say thank you for tuning in to listen. Until I come your way next time, enjoy the rest of your day.